have the chance to have a sample conversation, practice conversation with me too. Over the past year, I have made 7 Speak With Me lessons, and today I have combined them all in a very today to talk about effective speaking in spontaneous situations. I thank you all for joining us, even though the title of my talk is grammatically incorrect. I thought that might scare a few of you away. But I learned teaching here at the business school, catching people's attention is hard. So something as simple as that, I thought might draw a few of you here. So this is going to be a highly interactive and participative workshop today. If you don't feel comfortable participating, that's completely fine, but do know I'm going to ask you to talk to people next to you. There'll be opportunities to stand up and practice some things, because I believe the way we become effective communicators is by actually communicating. So let's get started right away. I'd like to ask you all to read this sentence, and as you read this sentence, what's most important to me is that you count the number of F's that you find in this sentence. Please count the number of F's. Keep it quiet to yourself. Give you just another couple seconds here. 3, 2, 1. Raise your hand, please, if you found 3 and only 3 F's. Excellent, great. Did anybody find 4? Okay. Anybody find only 5 F's? And anybody find 6? There's 6 F's. What 2-letter word ending in F did many of us miss? Of. We'll make sure to get this to you so you can torment your friends and family at a later date. When I first was exposed to this over 12 years ago, I only found 3, and I felt really stupid. So I like to start every workshop, every class I teach with this to pass that feeling. No, that's not why I do this. I do this because this is a perfect analogy for what we're going to be talking about today. The vast majority of us in this room, very smart people in this room, were not as effective as we could have been in this activity. We didn't get it right. And the same is true when it comes to speaking in public, particularly when spontaneous speaking. It's little things that make a big difference in being effective. So today we're going to talk about little things in terms of your approach, your attitude, your practice that can change how you feel when you speak in public. And we're going to be talking primarily about one type of public speaking. Not the type that you plan for in advance, the type that you actually spend time thinking about, you might even create slides for. These are the keynotes, the conference presentation, the formal toasts. That's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about spontaneous speaking. When you're in a situation that you're asked to speak off the cuff and in the moment. What we're going through today is actually the result of a workshop I created here for the business school. Several years ago, a survey was taken among the students, and they said, what are things we could do to help make you more successful here? And at the top of that list was this notion of responding to cold calls. Does everybody know what a cold call is? It's where the mean professor like me looks at some students and says, what do you think? And there was a lot of panic and a lot of silence. So as a result of that, this workshop was created, and a vast majority of first-year students here at the GSB go through this workshop. So I'm going to walk you through sort of a hybrid version of what they do. The reality is that spontaneous speaking is actually more prevalent than planned speaking. Perhaps it's giving introductions. You're at a dinner and somebody says, you know so-and-so, would you mind introducing them? Maybe it's giving feedback in the moment. Your boss turns to you and says, would you tell me what you think? It could be a surprise toast. Or finally, it could be during the Q&A session. And by the way, we will leave plenty of time at the end of our day today for Q&A. I'd love to hear the questions you have about this topic or other topics related to communicating. So our agenda is simple. In order to be an effective communicator, regardless of if it's planned or spontaneous, you need to have your anxiety under control. So we'll start there. Second, what we're going to talk about is some ground rules for the interactivity we'll have today. And then finally, we're going to get into the heart of what we will be covering. And again, as I said, lots of activity, and I invite you to participate. So let's get started with anxiety management. 85% of people tell us that they're nervous when speaking in public. And I think the other 15% are lying. Okay? We could create a situation where we could make them nervous too. In fact, just this past week, a study from Chapman University asked Americans, what are the things you fear most? And among being caught in a surprise terrorist attack, having your identity stolen, was public speaking. Among the top 5 was speaking in front of others. This is a ubiquitous fear, and one that I believe we can learn to manage. And I use that word manage very carefully because I don't think we ever want to overcome it. Anxiety actually helps us. It gives us energy, helps us focus, tells us what we're doing is important, but we want to learn to manage it. So I'd like to introduce you to a few techniques that can work, and all of these techniques are based on academic research. But before we get there, I'd love to ask you, what does it feel like when you're sitting in the audience watching a nervous speaker present? How do you feel? Just shout out a few things. How do you feel? Uncomfortable. I heard many of you going, yes, uncomfortable. It feels very awkward, doesn't it? So what do? Now, a couple of you probably like watching somebody suffer, okay? But most of us don't. So what do? We sit there and we nod and we smile, or we disengage. And to the nervous speaker looking out at his or her audience, seeing a bunch of people nodding or disengaged, that does not help, okay? So we need to learn to manage our anxiety, because fundamentally, your job as a communicator, regardless of if it's planned or spontaneous, is to make your audience comfortable. Because if they're comfortable, they can receive your message. And when I say comfortable, I am not referring to the fact that your message has to be sugar-coated and nice for them to hear. It can be a harsh message, but they have to be in a place where they can receive it. So it's incumbent on you as a communicator to help your audience feel comfortable. And we do that by managing our anxiety. So let me introduce you to a few techniques that I think you can use right away to help you feel more comfortable. The first has to do with when you begin to feel those anxiety symptoms. For most people, this happens in the initial minutes prior to speaking. In this situation, what happens is many of us begin to feel whatever it is that happens to you. Maybe your stomach gets a little gurgly, maybe your legs begin to shake, maybe you begin to perspire. And then we start to say to ourselves, oh my goodness, I'm nervous. Uh-oh, they're gonna tell I'm nervous. This is not gonna go well. And we start spiraling out of control. So research on mindful attention tells us that when we begin to feel those anxiety symptoms, we simply greet our anxiety and say, hey, this is me feeling nervous. I'm about to do something of consequence. And simply by greeting your anxiety and acknowledging it, that it's normal and natural. Heck, 85% of people tell us they have it. You actually can stem the tide of that anxiety spiraling out of control. It's not necessarily going to reduce the anxiety, but it will stop it from spinning up. So the next time you begin to feel those anxiety signs, take a deep breath and say, this is me feeling anxious. I notice a few of you taking some notes. There's a handout that will come at the end that has everything that I'm supposed to say, okay? Can't guarantee I'm gonna say it, but you'll have it there. In addition to this approach, a technique that works very well, and this is a technique that I helped do some research on way back when I was in graduate school, has to do with reframing how you see the speaking situation. Most of us, when we are up presenting, planned or spontaneous, we feel that we have to do it right. And we feel like we are performing. How many of you have ever acted, done singing or dancing? I'm not gonna ask for performances, no, okay. Many of you have. We should note that we could do next year maybe a talent show of alums. It looks like we got the talent there. That's great. So when you perform, you know that there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. If you don't hit the right note or your right line at the right time, at the right place, you've made a mistake. It messes up the audience. It messes up the people on stage. But when you present, there is no right way. There's certainly better and worse ways, but there is no one right way. So we need to look at presenting as something other than performance. And what I'd like to suggest is what we need to see this as is a conversation. Right now, I'm having a conversation with 100+ people, rather than saying I'm performing for you. But it's not enough just to say, this is a conversation. I want to give you some concrete things you can do. First, start with questions. Questions by their very nature are dialogic. They're two-way. What was one of the very first things I did here for you? I had you count the number of F's and raise your hands. I asked you a question. That gets your audience involved. It makes it feel to me as the presenter as if we are in conversation. So use questions. They can be rhetorical, they can be polling. Perhaps I actually want to hear information from you. In fact, I use questions when I create an outline for my presentations. Rather than writing bullet points, I list questions that I'm going to answer. And that puts me in that conversational mode. If you were to look at my notes for today's talk, you'll see it's just a series of questions. Right now I'm answering the question, how do we manage our anxiety? Beyond questions, another very useful technique for making us conversational is to use conversational language. Many nervous speakers distance themselves physically. If you've ever seen a nervous speaker present, he or she will say something like this, "Welcome, I am really excited to be here with you." They pull as far away from you as possible because you threaten us, speakers. You make us nervous, so we want to get away from you. We do the same thing linguistically. We use language that distances ourselves. It's not unusual to hear a nervous speaker say something like, "One must consider the ramifications," or "Today we're going to cover step 1, step 2, step 3. That's very distancing language. To be more conversational, use conversational language. Instead of "one must consider," say, "This is important to you. We all need to be concerned with." Do you hear that inclusive conversational language? Has to do with the pronouns. Instead of step 1, step 2, step 3. First, what we need to do is this. The second thing you should consider is here. Use conversational language. So being conversational can also help you manage your anxiety. The third technique I'd like to share is research that I actually started when I was an undergraduate here. I was very fortunate to study with Phil Zimbardo of the Stanford Prison Experiment fame. Many people don't know that Zim actually was instrumental in starting one of the very first shyness institutes in the world, and especially in the country. And I did some research with him that looked at how your orientation to time influences how you react. And what we learned is if you can bring yourself into the present moment, rather than being worried about the future consequences, you can actually be less nervous. Most of us, when we present, are worried about the future consequences. My students are worried they're not going to get the right grade. Some of you are worried you might not get the funding, you might not get the support, you might not get the laughs that you want. All of those are future states. So if we can bring ourselves into the present moment, we're not going to be as concerned about those future states, and therefore we'll be less nervous. There are lots of ways to become present-oriented. I know a professional speaker. He's paid $10,000 an hour to speak. It's a good gig. He gets very nervous. He's up in front of crowds of thousands. Behind the stage, what he does is 100 push-ups right before he comes out. You can't be that physically active and not be in the present moment. Now, I'm not recommending all of us go to that level of exertion because he starts out of breath and sweaty, right? But a walk around the building before you speak, that can do it. There are other ways. If you've ever watched athletes perform and get ready to do their event, they listen to music. They focus on a song or a playlist that helps get them in the moment. You can do things as simple as counting backwards from 100 by tough numbers like 17. I'm going to pause because I know people in the room are trying. Yeah, gets hard after that third or fourth one, I know. My favorite way to get present-oriented is to say tongue twisters. Saying a tongue twister forces you to be in the moment, otherwise you'll say it wrong. And it has the added benefit of warming up your voice. Most nervous speakers don't warm up their voice. They retreat inside themselves and start saying all these bad things to themselves. So saying a tongue twister can help you be both present-oriented and warm up your voice. Remember I said today we're going to have a lot of participation? I'm going to ask you to repeat after me my favorite tongue twister. And I like this tongue twister because if you say it wrong, you say a naughty word. And I'm going to be listening to see if I hear any naughty words this morning. Okay. Repeat after me. It's only 3 phrases. I slit a sheet. A sheet I slit. And on that slitted sheet I sit. Oh, very good. No shits. Excellent. Very good. Now, in that moment, you weren't worried about I'm in front of all these people, this is weird, this guy's having me do this. You were so focused on saying it right and trying to figure out what the naughty word was that you were in the present moment. That's how easy it is. So it's very possible for us to manage our anxiety. We can do it initially by greeting the anxiety when we begin to feel those signs. We can do it when we reframe the
Where will you find a university consistently ranked among the world's top 50 in a location unsurpassed that's in Australia's fastest growing capital city?
Welcome back to Learn with Sam and Ash. This is the only complete IELTS free course available on internet, and we can proudly say that most of our students have received their desired bands watching just this course. Before we begin, let me just tell you, each and every part of this course is divided in chapters. That means if you go to the description and click on the time, it'll take you to that particular chapter in IELTS. We also provide you some data along with this course in order to understand IELTS in a nutshell. The link for the data is in the description. If you need complete data, 30 hours of live session, mock tests, as well as unlimited feedback, do not forget to visit ieltsclass.learnwithsamanash.com. The date on which the batch is starting, as well as timing for the sessions, are provided on the website. Do not forget to visit it. If you have any doubt about the legitimacy of this course, we got 4.8 out of 5 in Google review, and you can read the comments as well what people think about our course. Now, let's get back to our main course. That is 9 hours and 45 minutes, and everything you need in IELTS is here. IELTS stands for International English Language Testing System. In this test, all they do is check your proficiency. You, by mean non-native speakers. Now, what is this proficiency test? Proficiency means checking how good you are in English. And by non-native, I mean people who are living in a country where English is not spoken as the primary language or the first language. Let me tell you and give you an example of countries such as Canada, Australia, US, New Zealand. Such countries, there are 8 countries. These countries have the first language as English. Apart from that, countries like India, China, and most of the Asian countries, African countries, South American or European, they don't speak English as their first language. They have it as second language or maybe third language. For them, it's must to write this test if they want to go to these countries. For example, I want to go to Australia to study, or let's say I want to go to Canada to work. Then I have to write IELTS so that I can show my proficiency. All right. Now, this test has been created by Cambridge University a long time ago. Well, here is not important. Important is to know that it was created by Cambridge University. What does it mean by that? And why do we need this information? See, Cambridge is in UK, and hence 80% of the English used in IELTS has British accent. Hence, I would recommend start watching British related movies or British accent movies. Most of the Hollywood movies are from US, hence you will see accent difference, and some of the answer might be incorrect, let's say in listening, because of that. Alright, we'll see how to solve that problem later, but for now, let's start watching British accent movies, okay? Moreover, there are types and categories in IELTS. There are 3 different things that you have to notice, 3 different types, okay? Some of them are very important to take care of. Some of them are okay, you're fine with it. Some of them you can be cautious or you can be fine. For the first one, IDP and British Council. Let me explain what these things are. You might be hearing this a lot while you're registering for IELTS. Now, as I said, Cambridge created the test, and they, as a university, give responsibility to IDP and British Council to take the test in various countries. These institutes or agencies, you can call them, their parts, take care of the test and conduct tests in countries like India, China, and any country. You are given option to choose IDP and British Council, and trust me, both are same. Now I'll tell you why there are many rumors, misconceptions, wrong information about this. Let's say I go for the first time to write IELTS. I write with IDP. I book my test with IDP and I don't get the required score. I'll say IDP is horrible, because I have another option, right? I'll say maybe British Council is better. Instead of accepting what did go wrong, I'll say IDP is wrong. Same for the person who goes for British Council and didn't get the score. They'll curse the British Council rather than their own problems, right? If I get in the first score, British Council score, that person will never say there's problem with British Council or IDP. So trust me, both are same. No difference. You can choose any of them, whichever the seat is available. Yeah, please try to book at least 15 days before the exam. Don't worry about that. I'll talk about this in later sessions or class, because there we'll talk about how to book exams and all those stuff. Yeah. Now this was the first type. You don't have to worry. You can choose anyway. The second one, you do have to pay attention. What do I mean by pay attention? Listen, if you are planning to work abroad, then please go for general training. This is for work, immigration, or anything related not to study, right? Here, if you want to study anything, graduation, post-graduation, PhD, any kind of course, go for academic. And hence, if in case, let's say, you go for general training instead of academic, you want to study but you take general training test, that's just wrong. They won't accept the score, and hence you wasted a lot of money in that. Please take care of this, otherwise there will be trouble later. You have to write the exam again. It doesn't matter how good score you get, this will be invalid if you do the otherwise academic or general training. So please take care of this while registering for the exam. If you have any doubt in this, you can definitely ask me in comments. I'll definitely let you know which one you should go for. I can help in that, yeah? All right. The last one is paper and online. Now, what does it mean by paper and online? Earlier, the test was being conducted just paper test. That means paper and pencil. You have to write all the answer based on paper. You get a question paper, you get a pencil, you write the answer. But now, because every other test is online, so they are
90% of people in the market don't have a systematic or don't follow the rules. If you don't trust me, just randomly ask anyone who trades before. But you can be different. Don't let other reference dictate who you can become. Yeah, why? My personal experience is this. If I ask around to wait for other people to be successful before I decide to invest and trade, I will not be where I am right now. And despite going through the journey of not following those, not having a systematic methodology, my turnaround is when I have a clear methodology. Way back 20 years back, I decided to take a proper training, and that cut short my time. But going through 11 different investing and trading class, what I realized is it's still not systematic enough to have a proper methodology and risk management. And I realized that you don't have to trade so many things, right? You just have to be clear your trading style and follow the systematic plan for your trading style. That's the key to success, right? And that's my turning point. The next one is mastering the psychology. That's also important. I wasted a lot of time during my initial stage not having a proper methodology, getting too distracted, don't have a clear process map. When you learn too many things, then you get distracted as well. And the other part is the fear, greed, and hope, right? Yeah. So you have a clear methodology, but do you have the ability to follow through? And also take a while to be disciplined. Yeah. And that's why my most passionate program is actually on the psychology part as well. And we integrate not just the trading methodology, but the psychology to follow it in our programs. And that's our biggest differentiator also. So if you're ready to take this journey so that you can also achieve financial independence, right, do join us in our 3-hour webinar. Then you realize that investing and trading is not a rocket science. It's something very learnable. You just need to ask the right person. And I've been trading for many years. I'm already a successful trader. Teaching is my passion, and that's why I'm doing this. And I also realize that many people in the market still have so much fear on investing and trading, even though they know they need to invest and trade to overcome the inflation and to grow their capital safely. So I felt that since I have a methodology, why not we help more people to learn this carefully and properly so that they don't end up having too much fear to start. Yeah.
Ready to activate AI across your enterprise now? MuleSoft can help. It's the unified platform for integration, automation, and API management that helps you put AI agents to work faster across your entire enterprise. Want to use AI to build workflows in seconds or personalize customer experiences in real time? It all starts with integration. AI works best when it can access all your data. And with hundreds, if not thousands of applications, that data is everywhere. With MuleSoft, developers and admins can choose connect your systems with code or use natural language prompts. Build APIs faster and then reuse them and generate complex integration flows instantly. Once everything's connected, automate processes to extract data wherever it lives, from third-party and legacy systems to paper documents. Connect AI agents from Agentforce to third-party systems and data and let them do the heavy lifting, delivering a better experience for your teams and your customers. And don't worry about managing those APIs. You can govern and supervise your entire IT estate from one place, ensuring every connector, API, and AI agent is secure. It's why we're trusted to power thousands of industry-leading companies, and why you're closer than ever to launching trusted AI across your enterprise. Go agent first, faster with MuleSoft.
Planning, or they already have started this, that they're taking tests online. I recommend please go for paper. That is paper and pencil. The reason for that is from our first grade till all the time we have studied, even in our work, we enjoy writing in a paper, and we are habitual to that, right? Studying online is a bit of a trouble, I would say, yeah, because there's a study conducted and said that 30% speed decreases while reading in a screen rather than a paper. That's the reason when you watch TV, when you watch videos and you read book, after the book sometime you try to go back to the video because you're really slow. But if you read from a book, it's fun and it's faster. So please go for paper and pencil. That's my recommendation. And these are the three types or three categories in IELTS. All right. After that, we have something important as well, which is scoring. How are you scored in IELTS? In IELTS, there's nothing like marks or anything like or points. We have bands. These are the final ones. Now, what is the meaning of these bands? All right, we'll see on that part itself. Bands is a name of a scoring system created by IELTS, or let's say Cambridge, where you are scored from 1 to 9, where 9 is the highest and 1 is the lowest. There's nothing like 0. 0 is when you didn't go or appear for the exam, right? You will get any score between 1 and 9. Depending on your situation or your requirement, you have to score according to it. If you score 9, that's well and good. It's highest. You don't have to worry about anything. Even 8, well and good. No worries. But there's one more. There's a catch. There are 4 modules in IELTS. That is listening, reading, writing, and speaking. If in case you score less in any of these, less compared to the requirement. So for an example, I'm a company who wants to hire someone from India. I'm staying in US, let's say. And I want you to come to US, and my requirement for my company is, let's say, 8 bands in listening, 7 reading, 7 writing, 7 speaking. In that case, what's going to happen? If you get 6.5 in writing, definitely you are not cleared the exam. You have to write the exam again. So module-wise score and overall score is required. So they might say something like 8 overall and not less than 7 in each. This is how they tell you what you require. I hope you understand what I mean by that. Yeah? Good. Now, there's one more thing that we must know about scoring. That is band and Zephyr. There's something called bands and there's something called Zephyr. They're different things and they're connected in a way which we don't know. Let me make you understand about that. If you look at Zephyr, it stands for Common European Framework as a reference for languages. It's a way to test the levels in the language. So there are 3 different levels. A level, you can call them A1 and A2, B1 and B2, and C1 and C2. So this is basic, intermediate, and advanced, right? Now, bands are created from 1 to 9. These bands respond to these levels. So for an example, 8.5 or 9 is considered C2. So hence, 8.5 to 9 is considered C2. Above this, it's C1. So basically speaking, they are responding to these levels, which are official levels in Europe. If you are learning any other language apart from English, like German, French, there are levels to learn. For example, if you learn A1, you get some score in that, you write another exam. So you see, these are those levels, Sapphire levels. Band was created by, as I said earlier, Cambridge, so that it's easier for them to test others. Because these levels are actually very broad. They wanted something concrete. So these 1 to 9 are concrete. Moving ahead, if you look at here, we have listening and reading. We'll talk only about them for now. Moving ahead, we'll talk about other things, which are 4 modules. In these, we have 40 questions. Now, I'm not saying that I'm going to introduce these listening and reading right now. Only I'm talking about the scoring part. Okay? So we have 40 questions in both of them. These are similarities. And 1 point you get for 1 correct answer. So you get, let's say, you get 40 out of 40. Right? So this will be 9 bands. If you get 39 out of 40, you get 8.5 bands in reading. However, in listening, if you get 39 of 40 out of 40, you get still 9 bands.
What's your worst assignment horror story?
I had a 10-page paper, and that didn't turn out too well.
Just last night, actually, I had to do 20 idea journals in 2 hours.
That's insane. Have either of you ever struggled to write citations?
Oh, all the time.
Every time. You guys gotta check out Grammarly. Grammarly generates free auto citations instantly, so there's no need to leave your webpage or type it in manually.
That's great.
Another fun feature comes when you upgrade to Grammarly Pro. They have this cool feature called Grammarly Authorship that helps you prove your work as your own, showing exactly what's typed, AI assisted.
So there are some differences, but what I mean is 1 correct answer, 1 point, and hence 40 points you get. Out of 40, whatever you get, based on that, you get your band score. I hope you understand that. What I mean by this is listening and reading are like common in this, but writing and speaking have completely different criteria. So writing and speaking have something called 4 criteria. Now this criteria itself is a plural, we don't have to add s. The singular of criteria is criterion. There are 4 criteria for writing and speaking, and based on these criteria they test you and provide you bands. Now I'll give you an example of each, one criterion of each. The first one, let's say your vocabulary or lexical resource. The better vocabulary, the more fluent you are, the higher score you get. So not just this, there are 3 more, as I said. When we combine them and test you, and they create your score. Okay, not just one person, many people check your paper, like total 3, and then they give you the score. See, I'm not saying the session, listening module, it's structure and grading. Remember, listening module is always first in the sequence. What does it mean by first in the sequence? I think we have discussed this in the introductory video that there are 4 modules: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. The sequence is never broken. In fact, they always are taken on one day and speaking is on another day. In these 3, listening always comes first. Just remember this. The reason to remember this, you have to be ready for the audio and other things. Secondly, it's a relief because, see, if this is the first one, you don't have to worry about the earlier one. For example, in reading, you're already partially exhausted, and hence, your concentration might go down. Hence, listening being first gets a benefit. Alright?